Welcome everybody to Pre-Health Shadowing. My name is Nina and I'm the founder and CEO, and I am really honored to host you all here today for another virtual shadowing session. Pre-Health Shadowing is an international student-led, women-led, minority-led, nonprofit organization for medical advancement during and thereafter the COVID-19 pandemic. We do have closed captions enabled to accommodate students of all abilities and needs. If you have any ideas about ways that we can become more accessible, feel free to email us at info@prehealthshadowing.com. Additionally, if you would like to stay up to date with all of our virtual shadowing sessions, I encourage you to save Pre-Health Shadowing as a contact in your email to avoid us going to the spam or junk folder or the promotions folder. This will ensure that you never miss a session and that you can get your shadowing hours live to get all of the knowledge that you may need. Since we are an international program, we host students from all over the world. We want to know where you are Zooming from today. I am over at the PHS headquarters over in the San Francisco Bay Area. Wonderful, welcome everybody. Alrighty. So if you are looking to stay in the loop with pre-health shadowing, you can visit us on Instagram and TikTok. You can also sign up for our email list. The link will be dropped in the chat. And we do post all of our opportunities on social media on Instagram. So I definitely encourage you all to check that out. All right, we do have some opportunities for you. Becoming a pre-health shadowing student does come with its perks. Neolith is a free mental health platform for students offered in collaboration with pre-health shadowing. So if you are interested in doing some mindfulness, or maybe even getting a psychology internship or certificate opportunities, I encourage you to check this out. Kaplan is another one of our partners, and we actually just finished our Kaplan partnership where we gave out free study guides to students who signed up. Additionally, with that, we will be giving away a $2,500 Kaplan Scholarship to one pre-health shadowing student. This will be available for students to apply very shortly, so if you are interested in winning this $2,500 scholarship for any Kaplan course, be sure to be following us on Instagram. We've partnered with the women-led business Mask for Mask. For each 4 masks that are donated, 4 will get, for each 4 masks that are purchased, 4 masks will be donated to a community in need, whether this be the homeless community, under-resourced hospitals, or really just anyone who doesn't have the means to provide for themselves during the ongoing global pandemic. They have a lot of really cute designs, and so if you're looking for maybe a gift, I know graduation is coming up, so if you guys are interested, check it out. You can get 15% off of your order with the code PHS15. Not only will you be helping this good cause, but you'll actually be helping 2 good causes, because 10% of proceeds will go to pre-health shadowing to help keep virtual shadowing free for students everywhere. If you are interested in being a part of pre-health shadowing, we are a student-based, student-led organization. You can join us as a volunteer where you can make your own schedule, either asynchronously or in a collaborative environment, or you can apply for a leadership position within PHS. You can follow these links. They will also be dropped in the chat. High schoolers, listen up. We do have a high school program available for you as well. You can apply on our website using the application form. And this is the goal of this program, is to help establish pre-health shadowing as a club on various chapters, various high schools within the US. So if you're interested in having your own PHS club at your high school, definitely you should be a part of H2P. Other opportunities, if you are looking to get published, pre-health shadowing has got you covered. We are taking submissions for articles, reflections, reviews, and success stories. All you have to do is go to our website, and you can be in contact with our editor-in-chief, Muntaha Islam, who will be helping you develop and make your piece as strong as possible so that you can be proud of whatever you can put on your resume, your LinkedIn profile, any applications. And so we really do want to hear from you guys and hear your experiences. Diversity is key, and pre-health shadowing is looking to host monthly panels to showcase various health professionals. If you have any ideas for professionals that you would like to see in some of our panels, you can nominate them and we will reach out to them and recruit them to hopefully speak and share their insight with us. We did host Women's History Month panel back in March. If you are interested in viewing the recorded session, you can go to our website and find the Women's History Month course, and you can take this course and get some insight from 8 amazing different women in healthcare. Pre-health shadowing is a free organization, and we survive solely off of the support and donations from the community. We are student-led and are really looking to find funding opportunities, but we really would appreciate if you are able to donate today for this virtual shadowing session. We do recognize that this might not be accessible to everyone, so that we ask, if you are unable to donate at this time, please share this with 3 contacts who you believe will be able to donate and help our program stay free for all students. Thank you. All right, throughout this virtual shadowing session today, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Members of our student team will be asking them during the Q&A portion of today's virtual shadowing session. I encourage you all to take good notes, because at the end of this virtual shadowing session, there will be a post-shadowing assessment that consists of 10 questions based on today's presentation. And upon passing it with a 70% or higher in 2 tries, you will receive a certificate that verifies your virtual shadowing hours with us today. Without further ado, I would like to welcome to you our professional. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Law.
Thank you, Nina, and thank you to the group. This is amazing what you're trying to do for pre-health students. I'm Dr. Anandi V. I was invited by the group to talk a little bit about my journey, I guess, as a healthcare professional and as an educator. So I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation, and if you have questions, please do drop in the chat. I'm sure they're monitoring, and then I will take all those questions. But since I do teach regularly, I know that monitoring the chat, trying to teach, trying to make sense, sometimes you don't hit all the questions. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit because you're all pre-health students, and I hope all of you have, at least by the end of this, if you've not considered it before, think about pharmacy as a profession, as a healthcare profession you would like to belong, right? Because it offers so many opportunities. So with that, let me start. I think there is a poll here, and if you guys want to take that poll before I share screen.
Wonderful. I'll leave it open for a couple more seconds. If anybody else has not yet voted, go ahead and do so very quickly. And then I'll go ahead and share the results so everyone can take a look around the room. All righty.
Nice.
Welcome, everyone. This is exciting.
Excellent. So would you like me to go ahead and start, Nina?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share screen. And if you find that it's difficult to see, please do let me know. And you will see that I'm facing in a different direction because I have a different screen here. So I have a double screen. So let me go ahead and make it in slideshow mode. Okay, so here we go. All right, you guys can see this okay, I assume. Okay, I'm seeing the nods, all right. So this is just like a little bit of my journey as a pharmacy educator. That's what I am. My degrees, as I'll talk about, is a bachelor's in pharmacy, and I did it from outside of the US, and a master's and a PhD. And these are what we call the appendees. I'm a fellow of 2 different associations, and I'll talk a little bit about that too. So who am I and why am I here and where do I come from? That sounds like a lyrics of a song, I guess. So I graduated with a bachelor's in pharmacy in India, and that was way back. Some of you, I'm sure, are not born then. It was in the late 80s. And then I really wanted to go ahead and do something, advanced qualifications. And India had a few, but a lot of us at that time wanted to come to the US because in pharmacy, the US was at the forefront in terms of, developing and research of medications. So we were all excited. And so a few of my classmates, we all, and I think it's actually in India right here is where I came from. And so I got admitted into the Ohio State University, which is where I did my master's and PhD. And it was, of course, a long journey, almost 10,000 miles away from home. So I came after my bachelor's to actually do a PhD in pharmaceutics. What is pharmaceutics? We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. And then once I finished from the Ohio State, and I'll talk a little bit about journey later, I then moved to California. Okay. So my education, as I said, was a bachelor's in pharmacy. It was the University of Mumbai, India, where pharmacy degree was more focused on industry. You can see even now, India is one of the top generic manufacturers, the top manufacturers of vaccines in the world. So we were focused more on the industrial part in terms of how to research, develop, formulate, uh, test the quality and launch. So we were focused on that. And that's what I did my bachelor's in. And then actually I went, if I go to the right here, for a master's in pharmaceutics. So I began with saying I wanted to do a PhD in pharmaceutics. Pharmaceutics is bench science, okay? So it's going into the lab, trying to figure out how to put together molecules, as you know from chemistry, and create a compound which you can then more easily put into the body, right? So pills or tablets, then you have injectables, you have topicals or ointments. So there are various different kinds of formulations that we know, right? These are all different types. A lot of us, it's mostly not a lot of us, but a lot of Americans, we take tablets, right? Because it's the most convenient way. But there are some drugs which may not be conducive to putting into a tablet because it goes through the digestive system and it may just completely destroy it with all the enzymes and the acids. So we need to find other formulations. So some we have injectables, it goes through your muscle, or subcutaneously, or it goes through IV. If you're in the hospital, they put it through an IV, so it goes quicker into your bloodstream. So there's various different ways of doing it. And the one I was working on is to formulate a local anesthetic, right? Like lidocaine. You guys have heard of lidocaine. So actually there was one which is called Rho Chi, which is a new one. So I wanted to put this anesthetic into a gel. And the reason for this was it was for Crohn's disease. And I put it in there. Crohn's disease is it affects the lower intestine. So it's a digestive disease and it's the lower intestine. And if you try to do anything from in a tablet form, it got destroyed by the time it went there. So they're trying different things. And what I was trying to do was get the gel into a suppository. If you are not aware what a suppository is, it is basically a form where you create, it almost looks like a little bullet, and it goes up through your anus. Okay. And you can use suppositories for laxatives and other medications. So we were trying to do that for Crohn's disease to enable the spread of the anesthetic, so as a painkiller, as well as to kind of calm the intestine because it's painful. So I was doing that, and along the way, it was long hours in the lab. As you all, some of you who have done lab research may know, it was long hours in the lab, and I started getting a little itch where I felt like I wanted more patient or people interaction. And I said, I'm going to get a master's. I'm not going to do my PhD. I'm going to get a master's in pharmaceutics and then move on for a more people oriented field, because that's who I was. I just wanted to be around people. And so I finished my pharmaceutics master's, and my advisor actually was very kind enough. He said, why don't you just, it was just one step down, one floor down. So why don't you go in for what was a very, it was an up and coming area at that time called pharmacy administration, which is really a misnomer, which now we refer to as HEOR, or Health Economics and Outcomes Research. So that's what I went into for my PhD. So I spent about 3 years in my pharmaceutics master's, wrote up my thesis, and then went in for a PhD in HEOR. So the field was still very fresh then. Pharmacoeconomics is basically looking at all your medications and seeing, well, is this cost effective? Okay, for the patient, for society, for, say, the payers, like your insurance companies. So it's really evaluating the worth or the value of a medication, right? So we did comparative evaluations. So we would look at medications versus surgery, right? And every single time medications came out on top because they provided so much value. We did medications versus procedures, right? So if you take something like cancer, should you go in for surgery or should you try chemotherapy, right? And now we try to do both, right? It may be a tumor mass, you try to go in for surgery, and then you have, after surgery, you might follow up with chemo. So it was looking at, those comparisons, or medications versus each other, right? Two types of medications, which is better, what gives you more value. So those are the kind of things we did in my PhD program. How we learned is we the first thing is we need to get the patient's perspective. So in the US at that time, this was getting very prominent, where we know what the physician says about, say, a particular treatment. We know how much it costs, but we really don't know much about what the patient thinks about it, who's the end user. And what we had started finding out is patients don't always take medications, and this is a problem we see even now. It's a it's literally a $20 billion problem. Or so we said, well, how can we figure out how to make patients take their drugs, which they need, if we don't understand why they're taking it or why they're not. So this is the whole concept of trying to get into medication adherence. But we would only be able to do that if we actually talk to patients. So that's where this became patient reported outcomes. And that's what I kind of, my expertise is in PROs, or patient reported outcomes. So first is to find out how patients think. So I got a minor in consumer behavior and marketing, and kind of really worked on understanding the patient's psyche, right? How patients think, why they take medication, why they don't, what kind of medication works better on them in terms of them, their convenience. So developing surveys and validating surveys. This is what I do for my livelihood now. I love it because it's really getting into the patient's head, trying to find out how to ask the questions. Because if you ask the questions wrong, you'll get wrong answers. So really trying to make it very sensitive to the patient, get them to understand. And so I have various surveys which are being used all over the world in patient satisfaction, quality of life, accountability, trying to look at patient adherence. So I have a few of these surveys which are published and which are out there. But in my PhD program, I examined the quality of life of those with migraines. People who have migraines, migraines is like one-sided headache, and they're very debilitating. You can't open your eyes. I've been a migrainer myself. So you can't open your eyes. You just feel like it's pounding, the lights bothering you, stripes bother you. There's so many triggers. So trying to examine the quality of life of migraineurs and how they view it, right? How they cope with it. So that was my dissertation, and that's what I worked on. So those were the degrees. And the LLL, does anyone know what the LLL stands for here? Anyone? I don't think I can open the chat. So let's see. No. So the LLL is something you all will need to get. It's called lifelong learning. Okay. It's really not a degree, but this is something, all these degrees are fine, but every single day of our lives, we learn, right? Whether we think we do or not. So that's really the progress we make in our lives, right? We call it updated intelligence. We are constantly learning over what we know before, right? All right, so let me go to the next slide. So along the way, along with my degrees, there were other things I picked up, different settings and different experiences. I actually, after my bachelor's in pharmacy, I spent a year in India working as a medical representative. A medical representative, for those of you who don't know, is almost like a sales position where you go into physicians' offices and you we call it detailing, but we explain to them and inform them about new drugs in the market, and encourage them to prescribe it for their patients who have a certain condition, right? So I did that for a year, and it was long hours trudging through physician offices, walking all the way, because you can't just keep going. And I was in India, we didn't have a car then, so literally you just had to walk long hours, um, and really helped me know how to interact with health professionals, physicians, physician desk, the front office representatives. So it really helped a lot. And it was almost a year of understanding sales and understanding the customers. And then when I came to the Ohio State University, I became a teaching assistant. So my tuition was paid because I was a TA. And when I was in the MS program, I was a TA in a lab course. So I was helping students with understanding pharmacy calculations, with dispensing labs. So it's basically trying to make all your formulations, make sure the labeling is correct. So that's what I did for the master's program. And for the PhD, I actually was a TA for a finance course that I had to teach, or I had to help teach. And the teaching assistantship really helped because it gave me an insight into student behavior, which has really helped me now. Because as you all know, you feel more comfortable telling your TA stuff, which you may not feel comfortable telling your professor. So it gave me an insight. It helped me figure out how to plan a course, how to make up assignments, how to make them interesting. So it was really helpful. I mean, what I'm trying to say is the experiences you gain in your life, you never know when they come useful. So nothing is a loss. I was also a research consultant after let me back up. I also did few internships along the way. So during my PhD program, I interned at the VA, the Veterans Affairs, where I learned about how medications are actually dispensed in the VA, how the VA works differently in terms of building a formulary. So it was a real good learning process for me. I did an industry internship where I learned about regulatory affairs, I learned about professional affairs, how to present myself within corporate, to make presentations to people outside of corporate. And I learned a lot about research as well. So that was, again, a very useful experience. And then after my PhD, I moved from Ohio to California. And that was, it was a few years after I had been married. My husband moved here, and we had to pick tips on where we're going to move. And we said, whoever finishes PhD gets to pick where to move. And he finished first, so I followed. And so he was working here, and initially I was looking for more pharma industry positions. And pharma industry in California is mostly in the Bay Area or San Diego, and we were in LA. So I did get some research consulting positions with the RAND Corporation, which is in Santa Monica. It's a think tank. So I worked there for 1 year, and then I kept my consulting contract with them for a few years. And I also work for another consulting firm, a research consulting firm. Really helped me understand research, communicating with different people, talking about my research, and prioritizing my time. Really helped me. So right now, where do I spend a lot of my time, right? So after my PhD, as I was working in RAND, Western University of Health Sciences had started the College of Pharmacy in 1996, and I graduated in 98. So in 99, someone at Western who I had known through my grad school said, we're really looking for someone to give some lectures in your area. Can you just help us? And I said, sure, I don't mind. So I walked into Western, gave the lectures in this building here, and then I walked away. And a few, like couple months later, they called up and said, we have a position open in your area. Would you like to apply? And I was thinking, I'm not sure, but I said, why not? So I went ahead and applied. And next thing you know, I became an assistant professor at Western University of Health Sciences. So assistant professor is where you start. And so I'll talk about my journey through Western, but this is Western. It's a beautiful campus. You can see the mountains. It's green. It's leafy. It's just, it feels very comfortable. So this is where I am. And here is my office. You see, this is the only office with a window. I'm just lucked out. So this is where I spend most of my time now, other than COVID, of course. And what did I really do at Western? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my faculty timeline. So I joined in 1999. It was a starting position. So any academic position has a tenure track. Most academic positions. There's some places where you don't have tenure at all. So it's a tenure track. Tenure is almost it's almost like a report card where you have to establish yourself. Okay, you write grants, you do research, you publish papers, you present abstracts at conferences and meetings, and you teach, of course, and then you provide professional service. And we'll talk a little bit more about professional service. So this is at your national associations, like you guys at, will be having student clubs, but they may be part of a national association. So we have a lot of professional associations in pharmacy. It's an alphabet soup. You have APhA, which is American Pharmacists Association, AACP, which is the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy, ACCP, which is the American Colleges of Clinical Pharmacy, ASHP, which is the American Society for Health System Pharmacists, and on and on and on. So we have a lot of pharmacy associations. And so we provide service by serving on those in volunteer positions, just like you guys, have, your officers of certain clubs. So this is at the national level or international level. So all of that we have to do. So it's teaching, research or scholarship, and service. So this is the trifecta or the three-legged stool really of academics. So I started there, and then of course in 2000 I had my first baby, and I trudged along. In 2002 I had another baby, so I have two boys now. And in 2005, 6 years after I joined, is when I had to present all my documents in order to be considered for promotion and tenure. And that really in our institution, so the definition of promotion and tenure, it kind of varies a little bit from each school or each university. But this is where I became an associate professor with tenure. And tenure basically guarantees that they can never fire you unless it's, some kind of misconduct. But you're pretty much, it's a guarantee of permanency at the institution. So I became an associate professor with tenure. And this says that you're the top 15% of your discipline. And at that level, you keep building and you develop as an educator, researcher, scholar, professional, mentor. And you continue being active in, and I was active in university, local, and state associations. And then after that, a lot of people take associate professor and they don't worry about promotion after that. Until this point, it's kind of required. But research is my heartbeat. This is why I got a PhD. This is why I work. I constantly want to contribute to, to the literature, which is those papers, which many people don't read, but also to how it relates to policy, changing policy, how it relates to the practice of pharmacy, how we can improve it. So research is like those contributions you make, which add up to really expanding the field. And that's what that's what really excites me, besides teaching and working with students, which is very energizing. So I continued research. Around 2007, my dean came up to me and said, I need you to be department chair. I'm like, I don't want to be. I'm happy where I am. But a little bit of arm twisting later, 2007, I took on the role of a department chair, which is basically, division head. And you guys may know that. So I had about 18 faculty, which I kept hiring and made it 25 faculty in the 10 years I was there as chair. Department chair is really a facilitator for everyone's careers. So I was a mentor and evaluator. I had to, evaluate them and provide merit adjustments. I was a guide. I was a therapist because a lot of people walk in and they are, they need all kinds of consulting. And I really learned about the operations of the college, budgeting, human resources, strategic planning, negotiating, resolving, conflict resolution. Just so much learning in those 10 years. It really helped me grow. And along the way, in 2012, I applied for a full professorship, which is now, that's kind of the top of that whole whole totem pole, where you now establish that you're top 5% in your discipline, and you are a professor indicates that you're an established educator, scholar, mentor, and that you are visible and recognized and respected in your field. So that's what I did in 2012. Since then, of course, I was department chair until 2018, where the dean came in and said, "Oh, I need you to be associate dean." I'm like, "Oh, wait, I'm department chair now." But then I changed roles to become associate dean in 2018. And associate deans really look at the program. So you have assessment in all your, your settings wherever you are, where we look at, is the program effective in producing graduates who are capable, right? What are our outcomes? What do we want our graduates to be? And are we achieving that? So that's something which I do. And it's every 8 years, the cycle of accreditation for pharmacy schools. Besides that, along the way, I also have set up the leadership curriculum for the school. um, I also am now leading the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force at the college. And I also run an elective in stress management. It's called My Technique, not to be egoistic, but it's meditation, mindfulness, and yoga. So I run that elective for students who want to take it. And I continue teaching scholarship and service. So, yes, it is a busy life, but I love it. I love every day that I have to go into work, and it still excites me, everything that I do. So this is my faculty life, really. So teaching is about 25% of my time. I teach health systems to the first years, and I teach outcomes and practice management to the P3s or the third year pharmacy students. And I also have a research fellowship of my own, which I run, which every 2 years I have a new fellow. And that is a nationally recognized program. And this is my ninth, 10th fellow. So I've had it since 2003. I also run electives and the leadership program, which is QT called ELSA, which is exploring leadership and self-awareness. So that's something I do for my teaching. And I also teach the postdoctoral students after pharmacy. You can go in for residency or fellowships. I also, help teach in that program. And then I continue my scholarship, which is really the focus is improving medication use outcomes with pharmacist interventions. So how can pharmacists help improve patients taking their medications, how they take their medication, and how to have them, look at all the meds, and so they are not, taking meds which interact with each other, or which are bad for each other, or which react with the patient. So it's called medication therapy management. So I'm really trying to examine how we can improve the processes and the outcomes. And I also develop tools, as I mentioned before. And then I have service commitments. I am active in several national associations. In fact, I was at the national level. I chaired the Council of Faculty, which means all the pharmacy faculty across the country. So, like 7,000 of them. I was chair for them in terms of trying to improve. I had some charges trying to improve for that 1 year, how to improve pharmacy education. Okay, so I did work at the national level, and I'm at APhA, AACP, bunch of organizations, but those are my top two in which I have service commitments. And then 40% of my time was department chair, and now 40% of my time is associate dean. So that's kind of how my life is divided. And these are some of my strengths, which are just specific to me, but I took the strengths 2.0, which some of you may have taken. And these are my strengths. These are my beliefs, my core values. Communication, I believe that a lot of things in our life can be resolved if we just communicate clearly, honestly, we're transparent, with compassion. So that takes to my next value, which is compassion. And I think, we have to remind ourselves, you don't have to always be right, but you have to be kind all the time. So compassion is one of my values. Collaboration with people, because nothing gets done individually. You really need people, and you want to work with people and collaborate with them. Commitment is really committed to everything. So whatever you do, and you'll see my mantra is, whatever you do, give it your fullest, right? Every minute in life, make it meaningful, because life is unpredictable. We've seen it with COVID. As you get older, you see that in life, it's fleeting, right? So every minute that you are around, you make it meaningful. which doesn't mean that you're just working all the time. It's just meaningful, which means you're sitting with your friends, focus on that, have a good time, enrich each other's life. And when you're studying, study, focus on that. So it's your mindfulness. It's really providing, so at the end of the day, you feel like you've accomplished not only your work, your relationships, giving back to the community, whatever is your focus, right? You are committed to what you're doing. You're giving it full. And as I tell my students, you do it right the first time, you don't have to repeat. So the first time you do everything, give it your full 100% or more. Then you never have to repeat it, right? So commitment is really that full blown commitment of you as a human being. And the last is community, which I believe a lot in community service and helping. Not because I think I have more than others, but I think we all need to help and learn from each other, give each other, learn, expand, when there is need, step in and help out. So definitely community. So these are my core values. So what did I do during COVID? I get asked a lot, like, how was your life during COVID? And of course, it impacted every single one of us. This is kind of my life during COVID. I was working on the accreditation report, which is 250 pages of writing, which of course I had help in, plus so many pages of appendices, putting it all together, making it flow, making sure we answer every question which was asked, and getting ready for that. So I led the college in that. Research. So I worked a lot on research during that time because I didn't have to spend time driving anywhere or getting ready. All of that I saved time. So usually on average, at the college level, we have 2 publications per year is what most people do. My focus is 4 publications has been my goal throughout, but last year I was able to do 10 because I had time. 6 abstracts, 3 talks, 3 chapters. Okay. And then I did service at the national level, a lot of it. And other services, I'm also editor in chief for one journal, and associate editor for another, and I serve on 3 other editorial advisory boards. I continue teaching my courses, the electives, and I also added on some electives for students who are on rotation. I did a lot of community service, so making masks, like many of you I'm sure done. I did a lot of talks, especially on how to handle COVID, mental health, etc. And as well as we did a lot of town halls on vaccines, vaccine hesitancy, comparing vaccines. So did a lot of research, and I still do these talks, and I also moderate a lot of talks on careers. So for the local community, for the kids, I do different kinds of offbeat careers, non-traditional careers. So I also have done that at the community level. And then I'm a full-time mom, so everybody was home, so cooking, cleaning, gardening, baking, reading, and of course binge watching shows, although I'm not a binge watcher, but my kids did make me watch some with them. So this is kind of what I did during COVID. It was very busy, but I think in a way it helped keep the focus on something positive, because we all know it was kind of tough around us. So I think this really helped me refocus my energies and try to do something positive, because we didn't know when we were going to get hit and whether we would get COVID. So it was really trying to make sure that when we have time, do as much as we can. So my motto is Carpe Diem, as you all know, which is seize the day, which is make every day meaningful. And this is what I tell everyone: become a better you each day. Every day that you have, improve on the product. You can't be, I can be Kardashian and I don't want to be. But I'm saying, I know we can only have the looks we have, we can only have the abilities we have. But the growth mindset is building on yourself every single day. So you become a better you every day. Keep building on the product. You should be better now than you were way back. In 20 years, you should think back and say, I really grew, right? So it's really becoming a better you every day, not wanting to be like someone else. Get inspired, get people to inspire you, make sure you have mentors, the people who encourage you, who really help you grow, but you can only improve on yourself, right? And so these are some of my pastimes or my hobbies or interests. I'm a certified yoga trainer, and so I also teach students and other people. I used to be a dancer. I still love dancing, although my bones are now creaking. I read. I try to read a book a week because that's my getaway. Community service. So we do sandwich drives, we do other kinds of things. I love to eat. If you see me, I'm not small. So I also love entertaining. So that's also part of what I do. So this is kind of fun. I love to travel, which, eventually when we're all safe, I can travel. So that's all I have as a presentation, and I will definitely take some questions. And I see that the chat is beginning. So would you like me to take the questions, Nina, or did you want to curate it? Or Muntaha, anyone?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that amazing presentation. First of all, it was so organized and elaborate. I enjoyed it so much, and I'm sure everyone else did. So for the questions in the chat, we have it in our document. Some of the members direct messaged some of the questions, so it's not really visible. So I will be asking the questions to you. Okay. So Lisa, an audience member, was asking about the courses that you teach. Why did you choose those specific courses, and what made you want to teach those?
Okay. So, well, part of what I do as faculty member is teach, right? It's the reason we become faculty is because we want to encourage future generations, in my case, pharmacists, right? So we want to make sure every pharmacist gets out as a top quality pharmacist, that we are proud of every graduate we put out there. So definitely it is more of like, how do I want to do that? Now we do have a curriculum, and some of you may know and some of you may not, because you kind of don't know what goes on behind. But the curriculum committee plans the whole curriculum, and we have to meet some national standards for accreditation. So it's, all these courses which we plan. And you have more freedom as an undergraduate professor when you can pick your classes, right? Or you can decide what you want to teach. At the professional level, it's a little bit, like you in the med program, you have the step exam. We have certain, certain competencies we have, the students, they have to meet it. So it's a blueprint, and we pick those which are aligned with our, the discipline we work on, right? So if you get your PharmD, you could go into a residency and you may become specialized in infectious diseases, for example, or ambulatory care. In my case, I did my PhD in health services, health economics, quality of life. That was my area. So when they asked me to teach, those were the areas I would align with. So the first years I teach health systems across the US. Health systems in the US, which is really one US healthcare system, compared with other systems in the world. So it's really, that's the first real class they get in when they come into pharmacy school, where we try to say, what is the healthcare system you're stepping into? You're going to be part of it. And how do you interact with other professionals in the healthcare system, like physicians, nurses, PAs? So we're looking at the whole thing and saying, how would you interact? What is your role? What is the scope of practice? So we look at that, and that's what I teach in the P1 year. So it was kind of something which they told me, this is what we want. And then how I developed the course was up to me. Okay. And then in the third year, I teach. So this is students who are obviously have gone through some rotations of some little bit more idea about pharmacy. They finished all their therapeutics courses. And then my course on practice management tells them how to be a better pharmacist, how to manage their practice, how to make it profitable, how to run a store, how to provide clinical services, how to bill for it, how to really manage, and what different kinds of career options do you have after pharmacy. So I have others, people who are in industry come and talk to the students and encourage them. So that's kind of where I teach. And then the other things, the electives, those are all I've plugged in where there was need. So the leadership program, I recognize we really need that, so I put that in. And of course that means I had to learn a lot too. And the DEI is a task force that I'm still developing. The elective, because all the students were like, we really need something to manage stress, and the faculty colleagues were like, well, yoga, why don't you do it? So, and I built a whole syllabus now, and that's what I've been doing.
Awesome, thank you for that answer. So Amaris wants a question related to your work-life balance. How do you make time for everything that you do?
I don't know if there's an easy answer to that, because I also teach work-life balance. So I would say anybody who says that they have perfect balance is either lying or delusional. There is none, right? It's a constant juggle, right? I've had days when I was a new mom and I had to balance, and it's really how you prioritize. And I said, my family comes first. I had to figure out. So it's really what you figure out. The most important thing, I think, and I tell this to all my friends and colleagues and students, as long as you are able to make the choice and the choice is yours, there is no wrong answer. There is no wrong balance. If I chose that, I'm going to take some time off and be at home with my kids, as long as it's not a forced choice, if the choice I make, I'm comfortable with it, right? I had people at, who were stay-at-home moms frown at me saying, oh, why do you put your kids in childcare? And that's not good. And I said, whatever you're comfortable with, it's your life to live. As long as you are able to make, your compromises and be happy with it, that's all that matters. So every step of the day, of the way, I think it's really listening to your inner voice that really helped me, because you have naysayers on both sides. I had people at work saying, "Oh, when you need to leave, you need to leave. You don't even, think about, oh, there's a meeting at 5 o'clock if you have to leave." And I said, because when I go home, my second job starts. I'm a mom. I have to take care of my kids. My husband helps, but it's a joint job. So as long as I'm comfortable and I'm productive wherever I'm giving as much as I can, that's what really matters. So I have made that kind of, and you saw my motto in life is carpe diem. So I feel like whatever is in front of me, if I can prioritize and do as much as I can for that particular aspect, right, whether it's community service. First is, and I tell my students, write your own mission statements, figure out what you want to be in your life, right? For me, I want to give as much as I can to everything I prioritize. So I would do that. And I think the balance comes in how well you do it without, losing your mind, right? So the balance is what? That you are content, you're able to be successful, and you're able to meet all the expectations without falling apart. And that is not to say that they're not going to be tough days. They're going to be tough days, they're going to be good days, but it's all the growth mindset, recognizing that you're going to have days when you're really wiped out, and days when you prioritize, take some time away. For me, it's for music, reading. I take my time, go for a walk. Whatever is within the constraints that you have, your ability to do best gives you peace and gives you balance.
Absolutely agree. I think a lot of people get mixed up with all the judgment that people can bring in. So it's really important to prioritize your comfort zone. So Zitlali asks, what are other careers similar or dissimilar that you are that you've seriously considered before choosing your current position? And can you talk like really specifically as to what made you choose this path over the ones that you previously were interested in?
Okay. And I don't want to sound like a cliche, but I knew by the time I was finishing elementary school, which is lower school here, that I wanted to be in health sciences. It was just something I just knew. And I kept at it. And after my 12th, right, similar to high school here, I did apply to med school because I knew that definitely wanted to be in health sciences. And I actually wanted to be a pediatrician. That was really my goal. And India was very competitive then, and I did not get into med school because of half a point. I know you'll find that laughable. That's how competitive it was. You had to be at a 98% before you could get in. So I did not make it, and I said, all right, it's okay if I don't get medicine. I'm going to apply to pharmacy school. So that was my next in that. So that's how I applied. And so I did consider medicine as a career, but it's all health sciences. Now, as you can see from the slides I presented, the path you take in life, you have some goals, and then life keeps throwing curveballs along the way, right? And that's life. And you can either say, oh no, I didn't get what I want, or say, all right, I'm going to take this path now, which is offered to me, and move ahead. So I did my master's in pharmaceutics, and then I moved to, more of a patient relationship kind of profession. And I meant to go into pharma industry, and I was in a location where we didn't have enough pharma. And then I did get some offers in the East Coast, and I said, I'm not moving because I'm happy where I am. And then, so again, it kind of goes with your mindset. Uh, it's not that you have a dream and that is the only dream you're going to have. Your dreams could change. Life changes, and you kind of follow that. And there are people who are lucky enough to get exactly what they want along the way, and maybe they prepared for it, and maybe that's how they got it. um, I changed some of my plans along the way, but every time my focus was to make sure I was in healthcare, I was in a profession which really spoke to me. I don't know if that answers your question, but um, I don't think that I considered anything outside of health sciences, honestly.
Yeah, thank you. She was asking about different professions, like the pediatrician
Oh,
profession.
okay.
Thank you for that answer. An audience member asks if you can elaborate on your student relationship as a professor and how, like, what's your teaching style when you're teaching about the health sciences?
So student relationship, we should ask the students too. But when we all have our own teaching philosophies, my philosophy is first is that I'm here 100% for my students. Whatever you need during the course, right? That's the only time you're really interacting with me. I'm here. So make sure you ask me. I can't come to all 140 and ask you what you need, but I'm here. So first is to be approachable. The second is I'm not going to give you all the answers. If you're coming to me to ask the answers, you're going to be disappointed. Uh, most of my students know this because they come to me with a question. I'll be like, I'm going to throw it right back at you, right? Because I think my philosophy is I can give you the answers, but that's not here why you're here. You're here to learn. So not only you need to get at the answer, but you need to know how to get at the answer. So it's really the path, the process of thinking. So I like to really nudge my students on critical thinking. If they say, this is the answer, I'm like, how? Why did you get that? How do you know that? So it is really reasoning and critical thinking, and that's my relationship. So of course, students are sometimes annoyed. Oh, Dr. Law, please. I'm like, no, if you can't figure it out, go look for it. Life's open book. Go scour the countryside, go through all the amazing references you have, find out. And if you can't, if you're like throwing up your hands, I'll help you. I'll give you hints. Eventually we'll work at this together, but I'm not giving you any easy answers. So students have, they grudgingly respect me, I would say, because initially they're like, oh, this is so much work, but they figure out why I'm pushing them, right? And they all treat me like I'm their mom, and I think that may be just age. So or that's my personality. So they do come and chat in my office, they ask me questions, and they try to get some advice as well.
Thank you for that. So Jacqueline asks, how did you keep yourself motivated throughout your journey?
Again, I think that's along, there are days, like I said, right? There are going to be times which are going to be very challenging, and you wonder, where you write and you're doubting yourself, you're second guessing. But the idea is, and I didn't recognize it then, right? And I can tell you that now. Have you guys all heard of the growth mindset? I'm sure, your generation is so, ahead in all this. So I think it's really, you don't have to be born with a growth mindset. And this is something I teach my students now in my elective as well. It's something you can learn. My favorite saying is by the favorite Zen monk that I know, which is Thich Nhat Hanh. If you don't know who it is, you can look him up. He says, and obviously it may not be his original statement, but he always talks about it. 10% is what life throws at you. 90% is how you react. This is my favorite saying, and I live by it, because every situation you can spin it the way you want. You can spin it the way where you can blame someone, play victim, say, oh, poor me, why is this happening to me? Or you can turn it around and say, all right, this is the situation. How am I going to get ahead with this? How am I going to improve on this product? How am I going to become better? What am I learning from this? So that's really the focus, and that's what motivates me. And I have to say, along my journey, I also have a really supportive husband. So he's the same way, and so we push each other. So when there are, things have been down, we have helped each other, saying, all right, what can we learn from this? We've taught our kids the same way. No situation is something you feel defeated at. You think, okay, this is the end of the road. It never is. There is always a light there. There's always something to follow. So your motivation is through yourself, through finding mentors, through reading books, through, all the things which really help us develop. But finally, it's here and it's in your heart. So motivation is something very, very personal. And I would say to all of you, and I tell all my students, the most important thing in your life is your motivation. And that's what keeps you going, even when times are tough.
Incredible, incredible. Thank you. So we're just going to switch gears and move on to questions that are a bit personal to the students. Amaris asks, what should I do as a pre-medical student if I have similar interdisciplinary interest?
as a pre-med student, if you have similar interdisciplinary, can you clarify that a little bit, which means you're interested in different fields within medicine? Is that what you're asking for?
I was referring to like policy or like government and
Okay.
how like the intersection with like science.
Okay, wonderful. And really policy is something you can, no matter where you are in any field, right? Policy is your passion in trying to improve the practice or, basically in medicine, it's the practice or help patients in a better way. So you could put policy into any aspect of medicine. If you're practicing medicine, you can get involved in advocacy for your patients, advocacy for the profession. You can produce research, which can be used in advocacy. You can, if you have the activist within you, you can serve in national associations and really take a leading role. So policy blends with everything. Okay, so if that's your passion, keep at it, read about it. I can't pretend to know all the courses in med school, but in pharmacy, we do have, in fact, in the course I teach, I do get people who come in and talk about legislative advocacy, patient advocacy, policy, how to make policy. So of course, you all have had, I'm assuming everybody has gov at school, right? At high school. So you know how policies are made, how bills are passed. So make sure you know all that and you can incorporate it in everything you do. So keep at it. And you can definitely do that, maybe not immediately, but once you are, either a physician or a PA or a pharmacist or a nurse, you can definitely incorporate policy into it.
Thank you. So just out of interest, as you've stated that you like reading, what do you read about? Are they like nonfiction or do you like fictional books?
So I read everything from downright trash to philosophy. So I have a whole array, and on my Kindle, I always have quite a few books, loaded up. So I read in the days when I just need a break. I read trash. I read. So I have some favorite authors. I read Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Those are some of my favorites. I also read a lot of nonfiction. I read fiction, mostly suspense novels. So across the board, I read everything.
Awesome, thank you. Another question was there a role model in life that motivated you to pursue your profession? This student is asking if it was like more of your younger years as an undergrad.
I think I've had role models, and we all do. We may not recognize every single one throughout our lives, right? So role models in everything, in different roles. Your parents are role models in one way, your teachers in another way. So I think I can't pick one or two people, but I've had so many. And I think we're all fortunate if you look around. Mentors, role models, people you learn from all the time. So not one person. I think it's just been a combination.
Since a lot of your students are usually pre-health students, what do you think are some qualities you look for to make like a good health professional?
That's a great question. I would say for the health professions, for any profession, but definitely for health professions, empathy and compassion, right, is key, because that's why we want to go into healthcare, because we feel that pull, because we want to give back, we want to help people. So I think empathy, compassion is something we're hoping most people have, right? Sometimes it's tapped, sometimes not. That's something we're all born with. Then communication is something which I hold very high in students, because healthcare is all about communication, whether it's oral, whether it's written. No matter how much technology we have, finally, the ability to communicate to patients, to be kind to them, to help them is very important. So I would say communication. And, we can teach students skills. We can teach them topics, therapeutics. You can teach them attitude. So attitude in terms of being positive, learning, not complaining. So we're looking for the right approach and attitude. So to me, the three most important things in students is motivation, attitude, and communication. And of course, compassion and the willingness to learn, which also goes into attitude. So I think these are some things, and of course, preparedness, right? So we want to make sure that you have withstood the rigor of undergrad, you've taken classes. Our admissions committee has a whole set of characteristics they're looking for in terms of your academic preparedness, your volunteering, your leadership. Um, is that part of your DNA in terms of helping people, in terms of getting engaged and involved with your communities, with your student clubs, and then of course your critical thinking. But some of those are skills you can grow with, but some of those are what you come in with, which is motivation, attitude, communication, compassion, and your approach.
Thank you. Those are really good qualities. So there was a question regarding location. So as you know, like you've even had the choice of making, should I go to this location for my job or not? Like you had that decision making. A student asks, what made you choose your specific location? And is location important when picking a job?
I guess location is important, real estate, but so what made me do it? In terms of my job, we had to move, right? I mean, our jobs were in, my husband was in like West LA and I was in like east of, 30 miles east of LA. So we definitely had to move. So that's a decision which, depending on who you are within your life, whether it's a partner, whether it's a friend, whether it's your family, I think that's very individual. You have to make some compromises and you have to decide, whether you want to drive more or you want to like be in traffic, or you want to live closer to. So in our case, we picked something which is kind of in the middle and good for our kids, and we could afford housing. So it's all of that, right? So it's really a lot of decisions depending on your priorities in life. Okay. As for, is location important? I would say the most important thing for you is, your first job may not be your last job, right? You all, may know that. So whatever job you get, which works with your priorities, is the right job for you. It may not be the most glamorous job you wanted, but once you go in, it's a foot in the door. Then you work your way up, and then you have options, right? So wherever you go, you do your best, your work speaks for itself. Even though a lot of people believe, oh yeah, you can politic your way, you can game your way, eventually it catches up. The best way to do it is put in your hard work, figure out your balance, and continue. The opportunities will come because you're right there trying to be as engaged as possible, giving your best, right, to whatever you're doing. The opportunities will come. So, location is important only in terms of your own priorities. If you want to be close to family, well, then that is your priority, right? Then that location be fine. If you don't mind going away because you want to learn, well, then that's fine too. So, it's really up to your priority. There is no good or bad location, it's only what works for you or not.
Great, thank you. Yuna asks, what do you think about the future of pharmacy? And she's also asking if it's worth pursuing a career in this field.
Okay, this is a difficult question because I'm going to be honest. So the healthcare profession is obviously going through transition. Pharmacy is capable of doing a lot more than it's asked for. Okay, pharmacists are underutilized to some extent because we go through 4 years of really getting to know the meds, being experts. Not always is that expertise asked for. We're working on National Provider Status Bill, which means we can set up like a workplace anywhere and advise patients on how to really work through their meds. Now, let me step back a little. Okay, this might be a slightly longer answer than you bargained for, but one of the biggest problems we have in healthcare now is, of course, patient access, which we're trying to resolve with the ACA. But the second is, in medications, is we spend more dollars and efforts saving patients from drugs, medications that they don't take correctly. It's called medication misadventures. So we have deaths, we have hospitalizations, ER visits, which are completely preventable. because we really need to get to the patient and monitor and help them out and try to resolve that issue. That's one big thing, right? And 70% of physician visits result in a prescription, okay? And we have such a huge chronic disease problem in this country. A lot of more than 50% of adult Americans are taking at least one medication daily, one regular medication daily, chronic medication. So there's a huge issue of trying to educate our patients, trying to make sure they take their meds right. Medication non-adherence is a huge problem in the country. It's costly for human life. So pharmacists are really needed to monitor, to work with patients. Unfortunately, the payment from pharmacists has been so far, you get paid for the product you dispense at the pharmacy, not always for the patient care. And that's why we're fighting for provider status. It's right now, it's I think the 7th or 8th time that's been presented in DC. California has pharmacist provider status. 20 other states, I think probably more, have their own. But if you want to really be a provider, Medicare at the national level, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services has to recognize. So that's what we're fighting for. If you get granted that, pharmacy is like all other health professions, a very noble profession. You're really out there taking care of your patients every single day, telling them how to take their meds, why they take their meds, trying to monitor, making sure they don't have the side effects or how to deal with it. There is just so much work to be done. Is it a good profession? Absolutely. What's the future like? I can tell you it's a little muddy, but it's cyclical. Every profession goes through this. There are going to be some challenging times, but we'll always come out, because this is why this is a great country. We have problems, but we choose solutions, we pick up and we work on it. So pharmacy is a great profession. This is a good time to get into pharmacy school, because the applicant pools, we are trying to get more applicants in the profession. It's wonderful to be a pharmacist. I love it every single day of my life, and my colleagues will tell you the same. The burnout among pharmacists is just as much as the burnout among all healthcare professionals. You're seeing that with COVID. It is taxing. You are providing care all the time. You are a provider every single day. You're giving care every single day. It can wear you out. But that's equal among all health professions. And that's why med school, pharmacy school is very rigorous, because we want to make sure that when you come in for a profession, that you really, this is your calling. This is why you're doing it. So I would tell all pre-health students, if you're going into a profession for the financial aspect, it will only last you that long. You have to go in there because it's a calling. This is what you really want to do. And if you do that, any of the health professions is equally satisfying and fulfilling.
Thank you for that answer. It was really nice. An audience member just wants you to elaborate on medication misadventures. Like, why do you think that happens? Are there specific demographics that it happens more, possibly like language barriers or just access, maybe like indigenous communities? So can you elaborate on that?
Well, that's going to be a 3-hour lecture. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. So in 2000, the Institute of Medicine at the national level published this book, and you can look at it. It's called To Err is Human. And it basically says that our medication misadventures occur because of various issues with the healthcare system. We have a lot of medications now. And say you have diabetes, it's not just one med, it's a combination of meds. So a person who's a diabetic gets, they'll have 3 or 4 different medications to treat different aspects of the disease. So if you have diabetes and hypertension and dyslipidemia, your number of meds keeps increasing. The complexity keeps increasing. You take one in the morning, one in the evening, one in the afternoon. You take with this, you can't take with this, you can't take this with food, you can't put this in the sunlight. There's so much of the directions with it that it's confusing to patients. Patients forget, they get confused, they're afraid of side effects. Non-adherence is a multifaceted, multidimensional issue, which goes across access issues in healthcare. Your insurance doesn't pay for it. You can't afford insurance. So there's access issues. There's systemic issues, right? In terms of you don't have a good job, you don't get. So whether it goes across lines of social determinants, yes. Health disparities definitely exist. So that is a reason, but that's not the only reason. There are so many embedded reasons. There is patient beliefs in medication, patient belief in the healthcare system. There's that aspect. There's the ability to access, affordability, and systemic factors. And then there's the whole patient related factors of, I don't believe in medicine. I don't believe in healthcare. I don't trust my health provider. So it's so many layers. It's hard for us to say there's only one factor. Medication misadventures happen because we have too many medications. We don't follow our patients well. So far in healthcare, maybe until 5 years back, we used to have patients come in, physician will write them a medication, a prescription. They go into, the patient takes the prescription, may or may not go to the pharmacy to fill it. Out of every 100 prescriptions written, only 50 prescriptions are even presented at the pharmacy. Out of that 50, many patients don't pick up their meds. Out of that, many take it home, don't use it. Some use it wrong. So there's so many layers to this whole problem that I wish I could say there was one issue, right? And then you have patients who take it 1 day or 2 days and say, oh no, this is giving too many side effects, I'm not going to take it. Nobody asked them, have you taken it? So you go back to the physician 3 months later, physician looks at your numbers and says, oh, you're not doing very well. What happened? Oh, this medication is not. What does the physician do? They have 10 minutes with you. They write another medication. They don't have time, right? So what we are trying to do is make sure that we have someone follow up. And that could be a pharmacist, could be anybody in the healthcare, but it is pharmacists usually. Follow up the patient and make sure they're taking it correctly and they're taking it. And adherence counseling has become a huge role for pharmacists now. So misadventures occur because of so many reasons, but almost every single time it's preventable. It could have been stopped somewhere in the healthcare system and it wasn't. So it's a very collective blame that we need to figure out. And I shouldn't say blame, it's a collective issue. It's patient related, it's provider related, it's system related, it's access, it's everything, all totally jumbled together.
Thank you for simplifying such a nuanced topic so well. So we had another question for Yuna. She says, if I am passionate about pharmacy and other fields that are not healthcare, do you think it's okay to take the financial factor in consideration and go with pharmacy/medicine? Or should I try not to think about money when choosing a career?
So the practical side of it is you absolutely need to consider the loans you're going to have, right? Because you can't just forget the loan, right? You have to repay at some point. So I would say, in fact, we talked about it just yesterday. You need to definitely look into how much a medical education, a pharmacy education, any health science education is going to cost you, what loans you can get, what is the loan forgiveness, what is the loan repayment. And there are forgiveness programs, especially if you go through the federal loan system. So you definitely need to look at it. You also need to see, and there are places you can, I think there is, what is it called? Student loan. I know there are sites, you guys probably know it better than I do. But there are places where they will walk you through and say, this is how much of a loan you're going to come out with. This is the possibilities of paying it. This is the interest rates. This is how much you're going to make once you're a pharmacist and how you can pay it. So I would say absolutely every single one of you needs to take a look at that. Whether you're independently wealthy, whether you can afford it or not, you need to go through that because it is a necessary exercise for you.
An audience member is asking about in your presentation, you were talking about your publications and how 1 year you did 10 publications, which is so awesome. Can you talk about your publications and what kind of research was involved with them?
Of course, what I love to talk about. So my focus, like I mentioned, is improving medication use outcomes. So anything that can be done, no matter how small, to help patients either get more adherent or be able to know what they're taking or why they're taking or how they're taking it, and improve their outcomes. So I have two streams. So that is one where in California we helped redesign the prescription label. So we found that people were having a difficult time figuring out. If I say take 2 tablets twice a day, it means different things to different people. And as a pharmacist, I would know that that means you have to space it by 12 hours. But to someone who doesn't recognize that there's, medication goes into the body, hits a peak, and then comes down. Before it comes down, you need to take another one to maintain the plateau. For people who don't recognize that, and most people, wouldn't bother to find out that, uh, they would take it just twice a day, morning, evening, may not be 12 hours apart. So then the medication doesn't really work as well as it should because you haven't followed the directions. But then our directions are not always easy to understand. Take 2 tablets twice a day. Um, they have they don't tell you sometimes, and we've had, we laugh about it, but it's serious issues where you tell patients to use an inhaler, for their asthma, and if they don't know it correctly, there are patients who use it without opening the mouthpiece. So the medication is not going inside; it's hitting the inside of the mouthpiece of the lid, but nobody's taught them how to do it, right? We have so many issues like this. Simple education, right? So to wait, what was the question? I've completely lost track. What was the question again?
No problem. So she asks if she should try to think about money when choosing a career, and if there is if a financial factor in considering pharmacy or medicine is significant enough.
I think I answered that. This was the next question.
Oh, one of her first questions, she says, if I am passionate about pharmacy and other fields that are not healthcare, do you think it's okay to take the financial factor in consideration and go with pharmacy or medicine?
Oh, no, it was in publications. Thank you. So it was about publications. So anyway, sorry. So my what I was trying to say is that labeling is a big problem in healthcare. At least, it is, in the sense, if you look at a prescription label, there's so many things there which you're like, why is all this here? You need to really, patients are looking for what's the name of the drug, when should I take it, when should I go get a refill. There's some basic things. So we did some research in that, and we redesigned the label, and we included a table to make it easier for patients to understand the label. So we just said, we put in some timings, and if it's one check, you take one tablet at that time. If it's 2 checks, we said you take it twice. So we made it where patients didn't need to read, as long as they could figure out what the table said. So we redesigned the label, and so that's a simple way in which we helped patients understand what their medication is for. So we've done things like that. And another thing is we redesigned the label. We've helped with medication disposal. So we did a whole program where we giving back medications which you're not using. So because it's a safety and environment issue. So we've done that. So we've done everything along the spectrum of how to improve education use outcomes. We have redesigned pill boxes. We have talked to patients simple things like, do you know you have to take your medications at least 6 out of 7 times a week for it to impact you? Patients don't know that. So we make all these small little interventions, and we try to help patients take their medications better. So that's one side. And then I also design protocols where pharmacists in patient care, in community pharmacies, in hospitals, the way they take care of their patients, I design the protocol for it, and then we make sure that the protocol works. So I've done that. The other side of it is developing instruments or surveys which measure certain aspects like patient satisfaction, as I mentioned before, like quality of life, like adherence, like patient accountability, which is we found that patients who are they feel responsible for their own health, they do better. They're more accountable and they adhere better. So we have a patient accountability tool, which we're just publishing. So those are main 2 streams. And then I do also work on what works in the classroom for students. So I also do that kind of assessment. So I have kind of 3 or 4 major streams of research for my publications.
Thank you. And thank you for doing such amazing research and just helping in the patient care. I think it's really important. Another question regarding medication. Do you think there is a significant problem with patients not understanding what to do and what not to do when taking medication? So this is not like how to take medication, but some things that they shouldn't do when they're taking medication. For example, when you take Accutane, it's said that you shouldn't go out in the sun or you should wear a sunscreen, and there's certain medications where you shouldn't drink grapefruit or like eat grapefruit. So do you think there's a significant problem with patients sometimes not understanding how to take medications with caution?
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of the, related to what I said before, in that they don't know why, how, when, what. It's the whole thing, right? Spectrum. And I believe that's our role as pharmacists, is to really educate patients so that we can prevent these from happening. And we have so many ways to educate them now. It's not that you have to be in person. There's telehealth, there's apps, there's so many different ways, right? So these are all issues which lead to medication misadventures. Somebody taking it wrong, going out in the sun, combining it with foods that they shouldn't, the potency changes. It's all part of the issue. Yes.
Thank you. So just for one last question, do you have any advice for our future pharmacists and pre-health professionals?
So they're only suggestions. And I think it's not just for health, but definitely for health. Remember why you want to go into healthcare first. Though that's your motivation. Have the right attitude throughout your studying, right? In whether in a health professions or even after, you're going to meet people, or you're going to be in situations where you're going to learn from some people how to do things, from others how not to do things, right? It's always a learning process. You may get a preceptor who you think, oh, they're making my life hell and I don't know how to deal with it. But you know what? You learn from them too. So have the right attitude. Don't make yourself out to be a victim. Focus on everything. Be positive about it. You came into healthcare to help people. When you help people, there's also a sense of fulfillment you get. That is irreplaceable. There is no words for that, right? That soul satisfying feeling when you've helped someone. They don't have to thank you. It's the feeling that you did your best to help someone, right? You're going to have tough days in medicine or pharmacy or wherever, your patient may die. You didn't do the best, or you were too tired and you made an error. These things are going to happen. But recognizing in the long run, you are doing this to help people, and this is your passion, your motivation. I think that's important. So my advice is, you're applying for a certain reason, keep that goal. If you change your goals, you say, you know what, I'm no longer interested in health science. That's fine. It's not a failure. You pick something else. So life is not just yes or no. There's a lot of in between. Whatever you're presented with, do the best you can. And that would be my only advice.
Awesome, just amazing. Thank you so much for that informative presentation, and especially that practical advice I think we can all use as students. So right ahead, I think we all learned a lot from our wonderful speaker that we had today. So considering everything that we've learned and the important things she brought up, I think you guys have a lot to reflect on. So some 3 questions we ask everyone to ask themselves, just to keep a documentation of their thoughts, is what brought you to the session today? What are 3 major takeaways you got from this live session, and what do you want to learn more about and just improve on? This writing reflection is not required. However, we do encourage you to submit it to our website for publication and just for recognition of your hard work and learning throughout our live sessions, and just to enhance future applications. You can go ahead and submit your thoughts at www.prehealthshadowing.com/blog submissions. And you can also write articles, reviews, and success stories and research papers if you'd like, if you don't want to do the reflections. If you want to learn more about pre-health shadowing and get involved in our program, we encourage you to visit our website. You can become an asynchronous volunteer to get certified virtual shadowing hours and virtual volunteer hours through professional nominations, graphic design, social media promotion, and grant writing. We are also accepting team member applications. So if you would like to take on a more active role and lead initiatives and projects with many team members and volunteers and even be up here with us, just please make sure to do the application. Once again, we are humbly asking that if you're financially able to, that you please consider sending a few dollars to us via Venmo or PayPal. You can see it up on the screen, and one of our team members will give a link in the chat. It costs a lot to keep our program up and running and free to all of you. So if you are someone who can afford it, or if you know someone else who can, please support those who cannot by donating to our organization so everyone can continue to get the education they deserve. Otherwise, we do ask everyone to spread the word about pre-health shadowing so many people can join our sessions and we can have a good live session with many perspectives at play. So now for the part we've all been waiting for, how to earn a digital certificate for the virtual shadowing hours from this live session today. So first, you will be going onto our website at www.prehealthshadowing.com, and you're going to find our professionals course pages by searching her name. Next, you can take our quick 10-question multiple choice quiz based on the content from the session today. You will have 30 minutes per attempt to earn 70% or higher. Once you earn 70% or higher, you are able to access a certificate and download it to verify your shadowing hours. And you do get 2 attempts that are each 30 minutes once you open the assessment. To ensure that our website does not crash from the high influx of students, we recommend that you wait 30 minutes to an hour after the session. And the quiz is open indefinitely, so you may be able to take the quiz next week or next month if you like. Once you have passed, you can click the Finish Course button that will be at the bottom of the professionals page after you take your assessment. And you can download your certificate verifying your virtual shadowing hours once you click the button. So if you've missed a part of the session today or just want to go back and view the other sessions that we have from multiple health professionals here at Pre-Health Shadowing and earn many virtual shadowing hours, you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Pre-Health Shadowing, and you can view our previous recordings. You can also find them via the professional pages on our website and take the post-shadowing assessments for these as well. So be sure to follow us on social media or subscribe to our email list to never miss a session and get the latest updates on upcoming sessions or just events that we have for you guys. We are currently booked every weekday until June for virtual shadowing sessions. So I hope to see you guys in the future sessions. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much, Dr. Anandi V, for being with us. I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, great night. And if you do have any questions, just stick around and myself and other team members will be happy to answer them. But the shadowing session is now over, and thank you everyone for joining us today, especially Dr. Law. Have a wonderful day, and I invite you all to log off.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so there's a question in the chat asking if we can submit one reflection at a time, or do we wait to turn in one submission with all of our reflections? You can submit one reflection at a time. I will go ahead and post the link in the chat for you to submit your reflection. You can submit one reflection if you'd like, or 3, it doesn't matter. Whenever you write your reflection and you think it's ready to be submitted, you can definitely submit it. So if you can wait a little bit, I'll just send you the link. Thank you, Yuna. All right, so I've sent you the link on the chat to submit your reflection. It's fine if you make it for one reflection. I think it's better if you submit one reflection each. But if you have other reflections, you can definitely send them in. Either or is fine with us. Thank you for asking. All right, thank you. Have a good night.
That was so interesting.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
It was really unique. I really liked how she speaks. It's so nice.
I know. Me too. I really like it. It's like very like down to earth and like I just really I love that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna head out. But I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your night.
Thank you. You too.
Sure,
Bye.
thank you.
Good night,
Bye.
guys.